My name is Alyssa Hart, and I'm 28 years old. If someone had asked me a year ago what my future would look like, I would have said something simple: quiet house, stable career, steady love, nothing extravagant, just peace. I didn't grow up with luxury. I grew up with chores after school, single pot dinners stretched across 2 nights, and the kind of family where love meant showing up, not showing off. I worked my way through college doing small renovations for landlords who didn't care that my hands stayed raw for 3 years. I saved every dime. And eventually, in my mid-20s, I bought a tiny 2-bedroom house. The floors creaked, the plumbing hissed, and every wall begged to be repainted. But it was mine. That mattered more than anything. I met Daniel Reyes in college. He was that warm-eyed, quick-laugh kind of guy who made group projects feel less like torture. We had the same humor, the same "we're broke but still alive" mindset. Or so I thought at the time. He was easy to love back then. Attentive, gentle, a little chaotic in the mornings, but grounded in the right ways. He came from a wealthier world, but he never acted superior. Or maybe he tried not to. He didn't flaunt anything. He drove an old car, wore old hoodies, hung out with people who didn't care about money. It took a while before I realized he was a Reyes. That Reyes. The family with the glass penthouse downtown. The family who funded charities like they were handing out gum. The family whose name was on every building that intimidated me. Daniel told me his parents were a little intense. He smiled when he said it, but his shoulders tensed every time they called. I didn't want to judge. Parents are complicated. But the first time I met Frank and Denise Reyes, I understood immediately. We pulled up to their home, a house so polished it looked staged. Gleaming tile, perfect hedges, cars without a single speck of dust. The front door opened before Daniel even knocked. Frank stood there first. Tall, stiff posture, jaw clenched like he rehearsed that exact look in the mirror every morning. He scanned me up and down once, not rudely, more like he was checking for defects. Denise appeared behind him, immaculate hair, flawless makeup, a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Oh," she said lightly, "so this is Alyssa." That tone, the one people use when they expected more. Inside, the whole house felt like a museum. Sculptures positioned perfectly under downlights, a dining table that had never seen a real family argument, and floors so shiny I was scared to breathe on them. Dinner was worse. Frank didn't talk to me. He talked at me. "So, Alyssa," he said, slicing into his steak with too much force. "You're in property renovations? That sounds unstable." "Unstable?" I repeated calmly. "Real careers," he said. "Provide foundations. Predictability. A woman needs stability in a marriage." Daniel shifted uncomfortably. "Dad, can we not—" "No, no," Frank continued, waving him off. "We're just having adult conversation." Every time he used the word adult, he made it sound like I hadn't earned the right to sit at the table. Denise chimed in with her specialty. Fake compliments dipped in judgment. "Oh, you own a little house? How cute." 2 bedrooms. That's a sweet starter. By the third cute, I realized the word meant beneath us. Daniel kept trying to smooth things over, but he wasn't built to stand up to them. Not yet. Not then. I spent the entire dinner swallowing my pride, reminding myself that loving someone sometimes meant tolerating the people around them. I shouldn't have. On the drive home, Daniel apologized over and over. They take time," he said. "It's fine," I lied. But the thing is, when someone shows you how they see you, you feel it deep in your bones. Life didn't give me much time to stew over that night. Because 3 days later, I got a phone call from my uncle's neighbor. Uncle Alan, my mother's brother, had died. He was the quietest man I ever knew. No kids, no wife, no drama. He wore the same shirts for a decade. He drove a truck that looked like it might fall apart during a sneeze. But he never forgot birthdays, never missed a call, never turned me away when I showed up at his small house just to talk. I cried at his funeral harder than I expected. Grief is strange like that. It hits in pockets, unexpected and heavy. A week later, a letter arrived from the lawyer handling his estate. I thought it would be something small. His truck, a box of old tools, the worn-out watch he always tapped when he was nervous. Instead, sitting in the lawyer's office, I heard words that didn't register at first. "Alyssa," the lawyer said, "your uncle left you everything." "Everything?" I repeated, confused. Rowan, the lawyer, nodded. "The estate, including the mansion." I laughed because I genuinely thought it was a mistake. My uncle didn't even own a dishwasher. What mansion? Rowan's voice softened. He lived quietly, by choice. He was an early investor in several companies. He had patents, real estate he purchased decades ago. He simply didn't live like a wealthy man. Then he slid a folder toward me. The numbers inside didn't look real. A mansion, $9 million. Properties, accounts, all in my name. I just stared. Rowan smiled gently. He wrote in his will that he was leaving it to you because you're the only one who ever treated him like family, not a burden. I didn't know whether to cry or laugh or faint. I went home that night in a daze, walked into my tiny 2-bedroom house, and sat on the floor until my legs went numb. Wealth wasn't exciting, it was overwhelming. But I knew one thing for certain. I would take care of what my uncle built. I would honor him. I told Daniel the next day, Daniel, something huge happened. When I finished explaining it, he froze. A mansion? Yes. And 9 million? Yes. His face was full of disbelief, then joy, then something else. An excitement mixed with danger. My mom is going to... Daniel, I cut in sharply, please, don't tell them yet. He hesitated, just for half a second. But hesitation is always louder than words. Okay, he said eventually, I won't. But I saw the struggle behind his eyes. He loved me, but he was raised to obey them. That night, lying awake, staring at the ceiling of my little house, I felt a strange shift inside me. A quiet warning. A whisper I didn't yet understand. I hadn't realized it then. But the moment Daniel knew I inherited the mansion, everything in my life began to change. The weeks after my uncle's inheritance felt surreal. I split my time between my tiny 2-bedroom house and the mansion. Dusty floors, echoing halls, sunlight bleeding through old stained glass windows. I didn't feel rich. I felt responsible, like I was holding someone else's lifetime of discipline in my hands. Daniel visited often in the beginning. He wandered through the mansion with the same awe I felt, but his reactions were different, lighter, dreamier, almost childlike. This place is insane, he whispered once, standing beneath a chandelier that looked older than both of us combined. I smiled. It needs work. Still, he said, spanning slowly, my parents would... He stopped himself. I didn't let it go. Daniel, you didn't tell them, right? No, of course not, he insisted quickly. Too quickly. I'm keeping my promise. I nodded, but the unease remained like a thin splinter under the skin. One evening, we both got a message from his mom. Dinner tomorrow, 7:00 p.m. Important. No greeting, no explanation, just a command. Daniel sighed. Maybe they just want to apologize for how they acted. Even he didn't believe it. When we arrived the next night, everything felt staged. Frank and Denise sat at the table, stiff and poised, like judges waiting for a defendant. We barely sat down before Frank said, we need to discuss the prenup. I blinked. Prenup? Daniel's hand froze halfway to the bread basket. Mom, Dad, seriously? Denise smiled tightly. Alyssa, dear, this is standard. You understand, I'm sure. We must protect Daniel's future and our family assets. The tone she used made it clear she believed I didn't understand a thing. I stayed calm. What exactly are you concerned about? Frank looked surprised I spoke at all. Marriage requires clarity, separation of assets. Our family follows structure. He loved that word. Structure. In his world, structure meant control. I didn't flinch. All right, what are the terms? Denise raised one perfectly groomed eyebrow. We prepared the paperwork already. Of course they did. In their lawyer's office, I sat with the prenup in front of me. No surprises, no trick clauses. Everything Daniel had before the marriage stayed his. Everything I had before stayed mine. They thought that meant my cute 2-bedroom starter home. Not a mansion, not $9 million, not an entire portfolio built over decades. I signed anyway. Daniel hesitated before signing his part, like he suddenly saw the situation from a new angle. His parents watched him, stone-faced, waiting for compliance. He signed. When we walked out, Frank clapped Daniel's shoulder proudly, like he'd just secured a business deal. Denise gave me a patronizing smile. We're simply ensuring Daniel is protected. Alyssa, dear, women shouldn't have to worry about assets. Men provide security. Daniel grimaced. Mom, stop. But she didn't. And it wasn't lost on me that she believed I had nothing to protect. If only she knew. Days passed quietly. Until one evening, while Daniel and I were making dinner at my little house, he took a phone call from his mother. The conversation sounded normal at first, just the usual boundaries she never respected. Then I heard him say something that made my heart freeze. Oh, we were cleaning the East Wing earlier. Silence. Daniel's eyes widened. He knew exactly what he'd just revealed. Denise's voice grew sharp enough to cut through the speaker. The east wing of what, Daniel? He stumbled. Mom, it's not. Daniel, what east wing? She didn't let go. She never does. In 2 minutes, she dragged every detail out of him. The mansion, the inheritance, the renovations, the size, the value. By the time he hung up, he looked sick. I'm sorry, he whispered. It slipped out. I didn't say anything. I just stared at him. The next morning, someone pounded on the mansion's front door like they planned to break it. I knew who it was without checking. Frank. And Denise, clutching a casserole dish like she was auditioning for a sitcom. They pushed past me the second I opened the door, dripping with fake warmth. Well, Denise said, eyes darting around the entryway, isn't this lovely? We should all take a tour, Frank added. As a family. Daniel stood behind me, stiff with guilt. I let them in. Not because I wanted to, but because I wanted this over with. They walked through every hallway, touching everything, whispering to each other like they had found a hidden amusement park just for them. This would make a perfect family estate, Frank said. This room would be stunning for holiday parties, Denise added, running her hand along a marble countertop like she was already planning events. I saw it clearly now. They weren't impressed by beauty. They were impressed by ownership, by what they believed they could control. We didn't speak much on the drive back to their house for family dinner 2 days later. A pit formed in my stomach the second we walked into their dining room. The table was set like they were presenting a proposal to shareholders. Frank got right to the point. Alyssa, we reviewed the previous prenup, he said. It no longer reflects your new circumstances. Denise slid a thick folder in front of me. We had our lawyer prepare an update, just to ensure fairness. Fairness. Interesting word. I opened it and felt heat crawl up my neck. They wanted the mansion to become marital property. They wanted the $9 million placed in a Reyes family trust, with them as trustees. They wanted every future asset tied to their family name. This wasn't about fairness, this was about domination. I'm not signing this, I said immediately, closing the folder. Frank's jaw flexed. A real partner doesn't hide assets. Denise chimed in sweetly. Alyssa, don't make this difficult. We're protecting Daniel. Daniel shifted in his seat, avoiding my eyes. Say something, I whispered to him. He swallowed. My parents just want what's best. Maybe if you compromise. There it was. The shift. The bending. I felt something inside me crack. Daniel, I said quietly, this isn't compromise. This is control. He flinched, but didn't defend me. Denise gave me a tight smile. You're being emotional, dear. I stood. No, I'm being clear. I'm not signing anything that hands my uncle's life's work to people who didn't even respect me. Daniel stood too, voice shaking. Why can't you just try harder? My parents aren't asking for anything unreasonable. I stared at him like I didn't recognize him. Try harder? I whispered. They're trying to trap me, Daniel. He shook his head. They're trying to keep things fair. That word again. Fair. But only for them. I let out a slow, trembling breath. All right, I said softly. Then this is simple. He looked up. It's us, or them controlling us. His breath caught. Alyssa, don't do this. I held his gaze. Choose. He couldn't, not even for a heartbeat. And that told me everything. I turned, walking out of the Reyes dining room for the last time. Daniel didn't follow. Not that night. Not ever. The night I walked away from Daniel at his parents' dining table, I drove straight back to the mansion. The long driveway was dark, the porch light flickering softly, the windows reflecting the quiet inside. For the first time since inheriting it, the mansion felt like a sanctuary instead of a burden. I didn't sleep. Not because I regretted anything, but because endings, even necessary ones, are loud. They echo through your chest, replaying every moment where things could have gone differently. Daniel's silence. Frank's jaw clenched in superiority. Denise's little smile of satisfaction. Around sunrise, I finally drifted off on the couch. But peace doesn't last long when you've crossed the Reyes family. At 9 o'clock a.m., someone began pounding on the front door so hard the walls shook. The kind of knocking that wasn't asking, it was demanding. I knew exactly who it was. I didn't even check the camera. I just opened the door enough to stand in the frame. Frank, red-faced, shoulders squared, ready for war. Denise, standing behind him with crossed arms like a queen whose crown had just been insulted. Jenna wasn't with them, and Daniel wasn't either. Frank shoved forward before I could speak, pushing his way into the foyer like he owned it. We're talking, he snapped. No, I said calmly. We're not. He ignored me, stomping deeper into the hallway, breathing hard. Denise brushed past me, muttering under her breath. Honestly, Alyssa. I shut the door behind them and folded my arms. Make it quick. Frank spun around. You ended things with my son? Just threw him away. He's not trash, I said. Don't talk about him that way. Well, he came home in tears, Frank yelled, voice booming through the hall. My son, crying because of you. He cried, I said quietly, because he was finally forced to choose what kind of man he wanted to be. Frank jabbed a finger toward my chest. You humiliated him. You humiliated us, in our family. I cut him off sharply. Don't start. No, you listen, he snarled. In our family, adults don't run when things get hard. Real partners don't quit. Real women don't throw away a good man just because they're too selfish to compromise. That word again, selfish. Funny how controlling people use it like a blade. I stepped closer, not yelling, not shaking, just steady. You're done talking. Frank blinked, thrown off. I didn't raise my voice once. You stomped into my home uninvited, I said. You insulted me, insulted my work, my background, my choices. You tried to trap me with legal documents that would have handed my uncle's legacy to you. Denise gasped theatrically. We were trying to help you. You're acting ungrateful. I turned to her. Ungrateful for what? For being disrespected every time I breathe? For being treated like an accessory Daniel brought home from a clearance rack? Her mouth snapped shut. Frank tried one more time. You think you can talk to us like this? You think you're above us now because you got lucky with an inheritance? I leaned in just slightly. No, I think I'm finally not beneath you. That hit deeper than yelling ever could. Frank's jaw clenched hard enough to crack. This, Denise whispered, shaking her head. This is exactly why the prenup was necessary. Girls like you. Careful, I warned. She pressed her lips together. Frank's voice turned cold. You're making a mistake. You'll regret this. Maybe, I said honestly, but I'd rather regret protecting myself than regret handing my life to people who never respected me. I moved toward the door and pulled it open. You know the way out. They stood frozen for a moment, Frank visibly vibrating with anger, Denise glaring like she wanted to turn me into dust. But they walked. They always walk when they realize they've lost control. When the door shut behind them, the entire mansion felt lighter, like someone had finally opened all the windows. An hour later, my phone lit up. Daniel. They told me they went to see you. I'm so sorry. I didn't ask them to, I swear. I don't know what to do. I miss you. I want to fix this. I stared at the screen for a long moment. Then I replied, Daniel, I know you didn't send them, but they came because they still think they run your life, and maybe they always will. I can't keep living like that. His response was desperate. I'm trying. I told them to stop. I really did. I'm just not as strong as you. My heart cracked a little, but some truths are louder than heartbreak. I still care about you, I wrote, but I can't rebuild something your parents will always try to destroy. A longer pause this time. Then, so that's it? Yeah, I wrote, that's it. Okay, he replied. I understand. I'm sorry I couldn't be what you needed. Goodbye, Alyssa. I didn't reply. Some endings don't need echoes. The months that followed weren't perfect. Grief hits in waves, not over Daniel exactly, but over the version of him I hoped he'd grow into. I filled the mansion with life again, slowly. Repaired the east wing, restored the old library, turned one of the empty rooms into an office, kept my uncle's workshop untouched, old tools, dusty journals, inventions he never finished. It grounded me in ways money never could. I rented out my old 2-bedroom house to a couple who reminded me too much of myself years ago. Scraping by, but hopeful. It felt right. Daniel didn't try to come back, and I didn't reach out. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is leave someone where they're most comfortable, even if it's a place you can no longer stay. One evening, close to sunset, I stepped onto the back patio of the mansion. The property stretched wide, golden with fading light. The kind of view people post online with the caption, #blessed. But for me, it wasn't about that. It wasn't about wealth or revenge or victory. It was about breath, space, the ability to exist without apology. People think choosing yourself is selfish. But the truth is simple. If you don't hold your ground, someone else will happily stand on it for you. I leaned back against the railing, feeling the quiet settle deep into my bones. Life hadn't magically gotten easier. But for the first time in a long time, it finally belonged to me. And that was more than enough.